Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Harlow from DJ Case and Associates and Locavore.Guide, and welcome to the introduction to the Locavore.Guide workshop series. This is a self-guided workshop series to help you learn how to attract and recruit locavores, people who like to eat locally sourced food, to your hunting and angling training programs. So with that, we'll do a little housekeeping and then we'll dive right in. So first, if you're watching on YouTube, I'd really suggest that you go to Locavore.Guide. You're still going to watch the videos via YouTube, but the important thing is there are a lot of resources and links and exercises and things on Locavore.Guide that'll make this material better and more useful for you. So I really would suggest that if you're on YouTube right now, just close it up, go to Locavore.Guide. We're on the introduction tab and start from there, because everything's going to be so much better for you if you get the full package. The next is, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank a lot of people. This is the second version of Locavore.Guide, so Locavore.Guide 2.0. And there are a lot of people I'd like to thank. The Association for Conservation Information was our big sponsor for the multi-state grant that paid for the development of this workshop. And Jennifer and Brian and Hank and Josh were all really helpful in an advisory capacity. And then certainly the rest of the team back at DJ Case. You'll see some of them in future lessons. Other people are behind the scenes, but we really are a team, and we work together to do what we see as really important work for conservation. This is the second version of Locavore.Guide. I'd like to thank everyone on this list that was really helpful with the first Locavore.Guide website. So again, thanks to everybody. One more piece of housekeeping, we're done. So what I'd really like is stop the video, go take this evaluation. You're going to learn later in a lesson about evaluation for your own programs, and we practice what we preach here at DJ Case. So what we'd really love is that if you would stop the video and go to this website. There's a link. If you're on Locavore.Guide, there's a link right below the video to take you there. And also, I'd like to introduce this symbol, the little stop sign with the pointer. That's going to be our symbol for places that we'd like you to stop the video and go perform some activity and come back, because a lot of these things build on each other, and it's really going to be helpful if you stop, do the exercise before you take the rest of the lesson. So do me a favor, go take this evaluation, and I'll be here when you get back. Okay, great. Welcome back. Thank you a lot for stopping the tape and doing that. If you didn't, shame on you. Let's move on. So as I said, this is the second version of Locavore.Guide. The first version of Locavore.Guide, I liked to use the metaphor of a library. What we did was we packed literally hundreds and hundreds of videos and other resources, most of which were end-user training resources, into Locavore.Guide 1. And what we found was it was becoming a fairly decent resource for the end users, the hunters and anglers, but very few people were actually taking the training, and our fear was that it was buried in there. So we did a workshop in Utah a few years ago where we had to cram the curriculum into 2 days. So what we found when we did that was that it made a very streamlined package. And we decided that it would be a great idea to revamp the website to Locavore.Guide 2.0. And I think the best thing that describes this is a blueprint. If you walk through this program, when you're done, you'll have a blueprint of how to implement a Locavore training program in the area that you serve, whether that's a state or a region or a particular group of people with an NGO. It'll work no matter what organization you're part of. So the lessons, we've got several lessons. We're in the introduction now, obviously. There's a lesson on the target audience, exactly what is a locavore. There's a lesson on planning your Locavore program. Evaluation. We're big believers in evaluation here. As I said, we've got a lesson on that. Media, what are the best ways to get messages in front of locavores? Messaging, what are the best things to tell them to attract them to your program? Events, which we believe are a keystone way to get people into your pipeline who you might eventually be able to convert to hunters and anglers. Learning styles, how various types of people learn, because various types of people are going to be taking your classes. Locavore friendly, how to make your curriculum Locavore friendly. Your standard off-the-shelf hunter ed kind of a curriculum is not right for a food-motivated new adult hunter. Social support, and we'll talk about that yet in this program, as a matter of fact, but how you can provide social support to your student. We've got an entire lesson on that. And then lastly, next steps, what do you do after you've taken this workshop? So how is each lesson going to be structured? Each lesson is one page on Locavore.Guide. So Locavore.Guide, the new version, is a really streamlined 10, 12 page website. Each page is a lesson. There's a quick text introduction that tells you what you're up to with that lesson. There's the video of the lesson, just like you're watching now. There's an exercise, and we recommend that you do those exercises right as you go along. If you're in the first couple months after launch, then look around on Locavore.Guide. Somewhere there'll be a schedule for live Q&A sessions where myself and some people from the R3 community and some of my coworkers who gave some of the other lessons will all be there to live answer your questions about that particular segment of the program. If you're past those 2 months, then there's a video and possibly also text of a lot of different Q&A that might be useful to you. There are resources. If there was a document or a link or a video or something that we thought would really be invaluable to you, then that's available right here with each lesson. The process that we're going to go through is you watch the lesson just like you're doing now. You complete the exercises, read and watch the Q&A, but we would recommend that you watch the video and do the exercises before the Q&A so that the Q&A can be maximally helpful to you, because that's the condition most of those people were in when they asked their questions. And then lastly, you'll take those exercises and you'll paste them into a generic Locavore program plan that we've developed. And what that's going to do is give you a custom Locavore training program for the area that you serve, whether it's hunting or fishing, whether it's a state or a city or a region of the country. And you'll be able to have a blueprint to start your program that's literally about your program. So a little bit about R3 before we get started. Not that we're ever really going to stop talking about R3, but kind of an introduction. Hunting participation has dropped hugely since the 80s. And as it's dropped, it's become a smaller, decreasing percentage of the population that are people who hunt. The age of those people is increasing, so they're aging out. And the number of people coming in is not sufficient to replace them. So not only is it a small percentage of the population, it's a shrinking percentage of the population. So that's the reason that it's important that we, as a conservation community, recruit hunters, and that was the birth of the R3 program. Fishing is in a little better situation. It's more stable than hunting, but it's still a minority of the population, and the average age is still increasing, especially boat owners. Some outdoor activities that are on the rise. We've got hiking, off-roading, photography, birding, wildlife viewing. So a lot of non-consumptive outdoor activities are on the rise at the same time that hunting and fishing are on the decline. And we need to harness these people that are coming into these other activities and attract some of them to hunting and fishing. I'm sure you've all seen the outdoor recreation adoption model. If you haven't, you will in a couple minutes. But we've made the outdoor recreation adoption model sort of the foundation of this locavore plan that we're going to share with you. And therefore, if you build it with the exercises, it'll be the foundation of your locavore plan as well. And since it's the standard in R3, that'll bode well for you. So let's talk a little bit about the model. So in the beginning, you've got to come into a new activity. So let's just pretend I grew up in the Midwest. Let's pretend that I moved to Mississippi and I'm hearing the guys at work talk on Mondays about what they did over the weekend. I become aware of the concept of noodling, catching catfish right in the river with your hands. And I say, sounds like a blast. So I want to give it a try. The guys at work a game, I tag along. Now I've had an opportunity to participate in this activity. And after you've done that, just like anything, whether you go bowling or take up archery or fire a handgun with a friend at the range, after you do something once, you've got the opportunity to decide to yourself, you know what, that was great. I can't wait to do it again. Or, it's not for me. So you make this decision to continue. So let's assume that you did decide to continue. So now you say to yourself, I want to learn to noodle, but you're still brand new. You've been out one time, right? In order to continue, you need support. So you keep going noodling with your buddies from work. They teach you the ins and outs. They teach you where to look for the fish. They teach you what to wear. They can't teach you much about equipment because you're just flailing around in the water trying to catch fish. It does sound fun, doesn't it? And at some point in time, you're going to do this enough with your buddies or your family or whoever it is that you do an activity with that you feel like you're capable of going out alone, and then you'll continue without support. And it's at that place that R3 has succeeded. You've created, in this case, a noodler, a hunter, or an angler in more traditional senses. I suppose a noodler is an angler, but they're sailing along on their own. They can go by themselves. They are their own source of knowledge. But sometimes life gets in the way, right? You have a baby, you go to college, work gets really busy, you join a softball team, you break a leg, whatever. Something happens that forces you to step back from your activity. At that point in time, the model considers you lapsed. So someone who was an active hunter or angler who's for whatever reason stopped. And the third R is reactivation. We're trying to get those people to come back and jump back into the sport. So those are the 3 R's of R3 and also the outdoor recreation adoption model. There's some other details of the outdoor recreation adoption model. We talked about it a little, that social support. So through this whole recruitment and continuing with support section, it's really important that you get some kind of support. In a traditional outdoor family, it's your dad or your uncle or your mom or whoever it is that, you know, shakes you at 4 a.m. so that you're in the woods before the squirrels wake up, or in the blind, or on the lake, or wherever it is you need to go. They teach you about equipment. They teach you what you did right. They teach you what you did wrong. And that kind of support, we all know, is invaluable, right? So it's really important that you get that support in order to gain the knowledge to continue without support, at which point you have self-identified as a hunter or an angler. So there's a continuum there where you know nothing and you don't consider yourself a hunter and an angler. You get some social support and you start to see yourself as a hunter and angler. And at some point when you feel like you're good on your own, then you consider yourself a hunter or an angler. So this is our first exercise. This also happens to be the end of this lesson, so you don't need to stop the video to do this exercise. What we'd like you to do is just jot down the ways that your state is using the outdoor recreation adoption model to attract hunters and anglers. We would recommend, if you're doing this with a group of your coworkers, that you do it alone and then compare work with each other afterwards. So that is it for today. Thank you for spending a little time with us, and we'll see you at the next lesson. Thanks a lot. Remember to do that exercise.